Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Back Nine Report. We get together every week to bring you the latest in the world of golf, the recaps, insights, analysis, interviews, anything and everything golf. In other words, if it happened in golf, we have it for you. My name is Carlos Torres, and every week I'm alongside my co-host, Fred Altvater. Fred, hi, how are you this week?
Well, Carlos, another week of more or less self-quarantining. We're back here in Michigan again, trying to stay away from people and just working at home. And, it's kind of the same old thing again. But for those of us who are having like severe longings for any type of live sports action on their big screen, we finally got to watch some live sports on Sunday. Really enjoyed watching Rickie, Rory, DJ, and Matt Wolff carrying their own bags, playing a casual round, wearing shorts. It was just more or less like a casual round that you and I would play together, golf buddies would play. Not too sure about the interviews of Bill Murray and President Trump. We'll talk about those later. But all in all, I thought that was a really good deal. I really liked it. But Carlos, main stories this week, we got we're going to recap the TaylorMade Driving Relief at Seminole, which was a big hit, a lot of viewers. More cancellations on the LPGA Tour. We will have another big exhibition this week and a tiger sighting in the match too. So as always, there's always a lot of golf to talk about. So Carlos, let's get to it. Let's go.
Let's go and let's talk about what happened on the recaps that we're going to first starting to talk is that the juggernaut pairing, and that's what we can say it, Rory McIlroy and Dustin Johnson, they narrowly secured the victory in what was the 19th hole in their skins match against Rickie Fowler and Matthew Wolff. That was on Sunday. Rory McIlroy and Johnson secured 11 skins during the match, 6 of which came on that final hole as Rory McIlroy won the closest to the pin challenge that would separate the teams. The two teams had tied the final 6 holes of the match, which meant they went to the 17th hole to play a 120-yard closest to the pin competition. Matthew Wolff hit his shot to roughly 18 feet. It looked like, okay, he had done enough, and it looked really nice. But world number one, Rory McIlroy, he had some other ideas. He just held the green at roughly 13 feet to secure the victory. So those 11 skins accounted for $1.85 million, which is going to be donated to the charity the winning team was representing. That is the American Nurses Foundation. Rickie Fowler and Matthew Wolff secured 7 skins in a total which amounted to $1.15 million, which is going to be donated to the CDC Foundation. There were plenty of other ways money was raised throughout the day, with the figure sitting at around just $5.5 million, okay, after the match concluded. The GoFundMe page that was created for the event raised millions for COVID-19 relief. Indeed, the team of Fowler and Wolff added a lot to that total sum as they both won the long drive contest and had a mountain of birdies too, which were a part of a Birdie Eagle pool that was put together by Farmers Insurance. On the 2nd and 14th holes, Matthew Wolff, I would have thought it was going to be Rory McIlroy, but Matthew Wolff was the one who won both long drive contests with tee shots that flew 356 yards and 368 yards, respectively.
That wasn't with a lot of roll.
He really crushed them. That was those 2 shots were worth $100,000 and $350,000 respectively as well. In terms of birdies, Rickie Fowler had the most. He was a fuego there after the 3rd hole. He had 7 with his partner Matthew Wolff adding 3 of his own. The team of Rory McIlroy and DJ had 7 in total, with McIlroy producing 5 of them. Each birdie was worth $25,000. The charity that benefited from this outstanding play was Off Their Plate, which is a fundraising initiative through World Central Kitchen that helps both frontline COVID-19 health workers and impacted restaurant shift employees. Fred, how about the play there that at the end going that extra hole to go to the closest to the pin. But overall, all 18 holes, well played. So how about the game there for the TaylorMade Driving Relief?
Yeah, I really wasn't really into the results of the thing. It's great, Rory and DJ won. DJ didn't really play that well. You could see a lot of rust in his game. Missed a lot of putts. Rory, I thought Rory played pretty well actually, and they won the thing by a big margin in the money, but it was just because of all those carryovers, and the last hole was worth 500,000 on its own. And then they got lucky, and he snuck it just a couple feet inside of Wolff on that little playoff hole. They replayed number 17, the par 3. But all in all, I just thought the show was really good. I really enjoyed the fact that it was just a casual round with those guys. They were all mic'd up, and they were talking back and forth, and it was just almost like you and I would go out and play, Carlos. Just an enjoyable round among friends. Oh yeah, and we're also playing for about $3 million, but but it was really good, and they took their time to come in and do that, and put their game on the line in front of television. Gave them something to do and maybe get a little practice in, but no caddies, carrying their own bags, wearing the shorts. Rickie really played fantastic. To me, watching it, you would think that Rickie and Wolff really won the thing because they outplayed Dustin and Rory for probably 14 or 15 holes. And it's just because Rory and Dustin did well right at the end that they end up winning the thing. So I don't really see any winners and losers here. The winner is charity. A lot of money was raised, and they did a fantastic job doing that. The other thing I want to say, the two drives of Matt Wolff, 356 and 360. That is just ludicrous, man. That's ludicrous. But that's a perfect course to do that. It's wide open for the most part. They can just let it go. As you can see, there's no trees. There's really no rough. Just, it might hit in the waist area, but that's no problem hitting out of, unless you're up against a little bush or a clump of grass or something. And so they just reared back and let it go. Wolff, I didn't realize he was that long. I knew he was long, but I didn't realize he was that long. So that was pretty impressive. 5.5 million raised for charity. And then Seminole really looked good on television. You can't get an appreciation for the elevation changes. You can see their little hills, but they're much bigger hills than what it looks on television. And it's really a beautiful place, and they had it in fantastic condition. You could see that. There was a little breeze blowing, but not like it can really get blowing there. So it was just a good day of golf, and it was great to finally see some golf on television, Carlos.
Yeah, the field was smaller, and the format was certainly different. But the masses were waiting for live golf's return and showed up in big numbers on Sunday for it. According to Golf Channel, a total audience of 2.35 million average viewers showed up to watch. And that number includes NBC, Golf Channel, NBCSN, as well as NBC Sports and PGA Tour streaming platforms. But you might ask, okay, so 2.35 million viewers average, how does those numbers stack up against a traditional golf Sunday? Well, let me tell you, that's pretty well, because despite what you might consider some unfavorable reviews for maybe a choppy broadcast format that included an interview with President Trump, those 2.35 million numbers falls in around the norm in comparison to the averages that CBS and NBC attained for the 2019 second quarter final day broadcast. So the number was good with a younger audience as well, which is important, as it far surpassed last year's second quarter tournaments, with those between the ages of 25 and 54 coming in 44% higher with that demographic. So that should tell you about how the people showed up, how many wanted to see live golf again. And regarding the play, yes, I noticed, to me, it was, DJ was out of it all day. I mean, he got like 4 or 5 balls in the water. He definitely was the player that was playing the least informed, let's put it that way. Matthew Wolff played well, but I think the moment was a little big for him. He tried to do like too much, I would say.
Yeah.
So to me, it turned out to be a Rory versus Rickie at some point, because those were the two that were like above, and Rickie to me was playing just amazing. Yeah, he's a member there, but anyway, they both showed, and like you were mentioning, that interaction with the players mic'd up, and you would see, of course, this was an exhibition, so they were even exchanging, since there were no caddies, they were exchanging notes, let's put it that way, about shots. How did you expect that? No, I thought it was right to left. There was also the trash talking, mainly between the Rory McIlroy and Matthew Wolff, that at the beginning, I remember Rory saying, hey, you know, I have won 2 FedEx Cups. This is not going to faze me, youngster.
$25 million worth.
$25 million.
Yeah.
This is not going to faze me, youngster. So,
yeah.
But it was funny. Rickie Fowler doing the Patrick Reed finger, and also, you know, acknowledging to the non-existing crowd.
Yeah.
It was all in all fun, and it served its purpose. Finally, we kick off again. Pro Tour. Yes, it was an exhibition. It was for charity, which, by the way, donations are continuing. They haven't stopped. So if you want to donate, go to pgatour.com/driving relief, and you can donate there. But to me, Fred, it was a good spectacle. It fulfilled its purpose, and it was great to see golf back on TV, live golf.
Yeah, Carlos, there were some a little bit on Twitter today. Someone was saying it would have been nice to have some of the TaylorMade women play, maybe 4 of the TaylorMade ladies on the LPGA Tour. That would have kind of added a little bit to it also. I would have liked to have seen that, actually. I think that would have been a good thing. And then as far as the broadcast, you had Mike Tirico sitting in Ann Arbor at his home. You had Lerner and Gary Koch sitting in the studio in Orlando. And then you had Steve Sands and Jerry Foltz on the ground down at Jupiter, down at the course. So it took a lot to pull that all together. I thought it was fine. I know people were complaining. I thought it was a little choppy, but you know, you're doing it with 6 cameras on the ground, constantly moving around and leapfrogging. You're doing it when the guys aren't really right there. They're, you know, like from Jupiter up to Orlando is a 4-hour drive. So it's not just like in the backyard or anything. I thought, I was kind of amazed at how they pulled it all together. Actually, I thought they did a really good job. And all in all, Carlos, I enjoyed it. I liked it. I can't find anything to complain about it, except for the fact that maybe it would have been nice to have 4 of the ladies in there too.
Yeah, that would have been awesome. And yeah, like you, I'm taken apart by the people criticizing it. Hey, you can't expect that to be the perfect setting. They had to wait for the players to get there. They were carrying their own bags. And not only that, they had to wait for all the cameras to move. They are trying to keep, this was the exercise for what we're going to be seeing maybe this weekend and at Colonial on June 11th. So I know things are going to get better, but for what it was, man, that was an amazing showing. We could see everything there. We saw most of the shots. Like you, I don't have any complaints. I was just happy to see some golf. Yeah, can't wait to see you this weekend, and we'll talk about that, about the match too, pretty soon. But there was more action this weekend, and in Korea, Yoon Kyung Park slipped past Youngwoo Bae in the final round of the KLPGA Championship on Sunday to win the first event on a major women's pro golf tour in months. Finally, the ladies were playing. Yes, it was on the KLPGA Tour event, which, by the way, also happened to be a KLPGA major. And it went off without spectators this past weekend at Lakewood County Country Club in Yangwoo, which is roughly 15 miles north of Seoul. It was the first KLPGA event played in South Korea this year. The KLPGA started its season in December, but had not held an event all year long. As you know, the LPGA also has been on pause since February 16 when Inbay Park won the ISPS Handa Women's Australian Open. So Hyun Kyung Park won at 17 under for 72 holes. That victory represents Park's first KLPGA title in 29 career starts on that tour. So according to the Yonhap News Agency, Park won what was the equivalent price of $178,400 in money, which is pretty good. Park is ranked number 92 in the Rolex Women's rankings, which have been frozen in place since March 31st. And if you wonder if there were some quality players on that field, let me tell you, there were. 3 top 10 players in that ranking also teed it up at Lakewood this past weekend. One of them, the reigning U.S. Women's Open champion, Young Lee 6, she finished T15, 8 shots off the pace. Se-Young Kim, which is number 6 right now in the Rolex rankings, finished T46. And the number 3 ranked Sungyeon Park missed the 36-hole cut. But let me put it into perspective. This was the first time Sungyeon Park has stayed up all year long. So, Fred, how about this? The first pro tour to bring up some action. It was without fans. It was in Korea, but at least we're starting to see the pro golf tours trying to get back on it.
Yeah, we've been sitting here since after the first week of March with no action going on, nothing to report, nothing to recap, nothing to review, nothing to even talk about as far as active golf. And now we had 2 this weekend, so that's like a bonus. That's a 2,000% increase, so it's wonderful. Young Kung Park, only 22 years old. She had racked up 5 top 6 finishes, so it's not unusual to see her to win. She's been building towards this. She's going to be somebody we're going to be seeing here in the United States and probably be winning sooner than later over here in the U.S. She did get a great big hug. There was no social distancing from her caddy because the caddy was her father. So there's a big hug on the 18th hole for that. But the rest of her friends, when they came out, they had to kind of settle for elbow bumps and maintain the social distancing rules and regulations. But yeah, good win for a young up-and-coming player. And I expect we're going to see much more of her in the near future, Carlos.
Yes, we definitely have. And but that was not the only action. There was some minor tour action that I'm going to go quickly around it. And Fred, I felt so bad last week that I was the one to let you take the long name, difficult name to mention.
I bet you felt bad. Yeah, you felt terrible. Yeah.
Very terrible. I mean, I barely slept all week. So when I saw the name of Jace Janewatananon playing this weekend, I said, I have to cover it. I mean, I
can pronounce his name, Jazz. I got that one.
Okay, Jazz. Well, let me tell you, I was looking around and he's been busy, and he continued to stay busy during this unexpected hiatus, losing a 3-man playoff. That was yesterday during a West Florida Golf Tour event. He's ranked number 39 in the world. So Jazz has been the past several weeks practicing in Central Florida and got recruited to a WFGT one-day event by the former PGA Tour winner, Daniel Chopra. He has played each of the last 3 weekly events. This time he fired 7 under 65 at Laurel Oak Country Club in Sarasota that got him into that 3-man playoff that was eventually won by Michael Visacki. Now, 1 year after contending for the PGA Championship at Bethpage, Jazz, who's 24 years old, made the amazing of $900 for his T2 finish among the 66-man field. So that should tell you, he'll soon be heading back to his usual level of competition as he's going to be playing in the PGA Tour's return at the Charles Schwab Challenge in 3 weeks. So watch out for him. He's really staying busy. Now, also former PGA Tour player Carl Nost came out of retirement this past week at the Scottsdale, Arizona Open, where he fired 3 straight rounds of 66 or better and tied for 3rd. Nose walk away, you might remember from the PGA Tour competition earlier this year when he missed the cut at the Waste Management Phoenix Open in what was the final start of his major medical extension. But the Scottsdale resident couldn't resist returning for this week's 54-hole event that featured plenty of other tour players and offered $20,000 to the winner. Nose got within one shot of the lead thanks to a fast start there during the final round at Talking Stick Golf Course. But eventually he settled for a closing 66 and a T3 finish that earned him $6,860. The recent college graduate, Zach Smith, earned his first win as a pro, closing with a 62 to finish at 18 under, while tour veteran and 2017 Scottsdale Open champ Joel Damon faded to a T8 finish with a final round of 71. So those were the other two minor tour tournaments that were this weekend. Fred, anything you want to add on those two, commenting on that?
No, Carlos, it's just great to be able to talk about some action again, though. You know, we've just seemed like we've been so long since we've been able to do that. It's just a pleasure to see guys out playing and competing again.
Oh, that's fantastic. So now let's talk about what's going to happen this weekend. After seeing the TaylorMade Driving Relief event on Sunday, I bet fans of golf will have are wanting to see another opportunity to watch live golf. Well, fans, you don't have to wait too much, because coming this weekend, Tiger Woods and Peyton Manning will take on Phil Mickelson and Tom Brady in what is called the match, Champions for Charity. However, this weekend's event is different than the last one because it's not for professional golfers battling in a skins game. Instead, you're going to get a pair of future NFL Hall of Fame quarterbacks who have won 8 Super Bowl between them, join 2 of the greatest golfers of all time. Now, the format for this Sundays is also going to be different, which will be held, by the way, at the Medalist Golf Club. Look back behind me, that's where I am, right? It's going to be in Hobie Sound in Florida, and will be different than the TaylorMade event. Woods, Manning, Mickelson, and Brady, they will be playing a best ball on the front 9. Then they will play a modified alternate shot format on the back 9. This event will raise money for COVID-19 relief, with the funding going to organizations like directrelief.org and the American Red Cross. Turner Sports, which will broadcast the event on TNT, has already made a significant donation to that cause. And what the foursome is hoping is just the beginning. And if it's by what we already saw, what happened with the first one, the TaylorMade Relief this past weekend, I bet now that you add these 2 quarterbacks from the NFL, I think the relief, the donations will be very substantial. So if you might remember in the TaylorMade event, there was a little bit of trash talking, right? Mostly between Rory McIlroy and Matthew Wolff. I guarantee you that there will be more trash talking in this event, because all 4 players are known to be trash talkers on the course and or on the field. So if the players are wearing microphones like this one's wear, and the audience can hear what they are saying, it should be a lot of fun. The golf is not going to be as good, obviously. We have 2 amateurs playing, but the team aspect, I find it that will be fascinating, because especially during the modified alternate shot portion of the event, on those back 9 holes, having a good partner will be crucial. So we will be seeing about Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, which will be the better amateur between them. And that could be the difference on those 9 holes. That's where everything will get interesting closing down the stretch. Something else that will make the event interesting for the fans is the television lineup. I mean, TNT will have Brian Anderson as the host, with former Masters champion Trevor Immelman and NBA legend Charles Barkley serving as analysts. Hey, JT, Justin Thomas, and CBS Amanda Baloney's will serve as on-course reporters. So, Fred, it was great to have live golf back on television this past weekend. Now, with Mickelson and Woods ready to take the course, the interest will only get more intense.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. You know, we had 2.35 million viewers last weekend. I wouldn't be surprised to push that number up to 3 million with Tiger there and Phil, because they're both so popular. with golf fans across the country. You know that people are going to tune in just to watch them. And I think you're right on. The fun part of this deal is going to be on the back nine when they're playing alternate shot. So the pressure is going to be on the amateur to hit at least one shot every hole, to make something happen. And that's going to be a lot of pressure for those guys. So, and Peyton Manning is not shy about, he's not shy when he gets in front of a camera. So he should be pretty good TV. You talk about trash talking. I'm sure he'll have some one-liners, some zings in there, especially between him and Phil. And, Phil eats that stuff up. So it should be good stuff, actually. The Medalist Club and the Bears Club down there are kind of like the two. There's some really good private clubs in Palm Beach area, right? But these two are kind of like the top of the heap. Jack Nicklaus Bear Club and Greg Norman designed the Medalist. He doesn't have anything to do with it now, but he originally designed it along with Pete Dye. It opened in 1995. It's been since renovated. Norman came in, did some stuff with the greens, but then Bobby Wade has been in and renovated the whole property, and Norman doesn't want his name on it, anything to do with it anymore. But it's really a beautiful place, great place. Tiger and Peyton are pretty much 3-1 betting favorites, huge favorites on the betting line. A lot of other bets you can make, Carlos. You can bet who's going to be the first team to go one up, who's going to have the longest drive on number 3, who's going to be the leader after 3 holes, 6 holes, 9 holes, who's going to be the leader on the front 9, who's going to be the leader on the back 9, who's going to get closest to pins on number 4, number 8. A lot of bets you can make, Carlos. If you want to make some wagers, you can go online and do all that stuff. But the big deal here is we're raising more money for COVID relief, and kudos to these guys for doing it. It should be fun. I'll be watching. It'll be exciting.
Yeah, I'll be watching too. It should be very interesting, and I am going to watch it more because I not only the play. I think that back nine is going to be super interesting in seeing how, because you mentioned it right on. Peyton Manning and Tom Brady are going to have the whole pressure there. And how they are going to react, how they're going to be trash talking to each other. If one of them misses badly, how they're going to talk to each other. I can't wait to see that. But like you mentioned, the biggest winners here are the charities. They're finally getting back-to-back donations and for COVID relief, which is very important. And we're going to be able to watch some live golf, especially with the two maybe most popular players right now in golf, which is Phil Mickelson and Tiger Woods. Now, a very important piece of news, and I consider it very important because, let's say, last Tuesday, Arizona Governor Doug Ducey announced that professional sports, including the MLB, the NBA, the NHL, and the NFL, may resume in the state without fans on Saturday. That was this past Saturday, as long as Centers for Disease Control and Prevention guidelines are followed, which for sure they will. A day later, Florida's Ron DeSantis became the second governor to announce that his state is open to professional sports teams that want to resume activity amid the coronavirus pandemic. Now, you might remember last month, DeSantis had deemed sports essential services. He got grilled by it. He allowed WWE and UFC events to take place in the state without fans. And we already talked about right now about Tiger Woods, Peyton Manning versus Phil Mickelson and Tom Brady, the golf match that will be in Hobby Sound this Sunday, also without fans. So take that into consideration when you listen that yesterday on what might be the most significant move towards seeing pro sports again everywhere. The governors from New York, California, and Texas said that pro sports could resume in their respective states in the near future. We're talking about the 3 biggest states that have been hit, among with Florida, now saying that their pro sports can return. The New York governor, Andrew Cuomo, he said that he's encouraging major sports teams in the state to plan to reopen without fans. The California governor, Gavin Newsom, later said that sports could resume without fans in his state as soon as the first week or so of June. Now, speaking at his daily news conference, Newsom said that the sports could return without spectators and with modification and very prescriptive conditions if the number of coronaviruses and hospitalizations in the states continue to decrease. Now, yesterday, the governor of the state I'm living in, Texas, Governor Greg Abbott, said that pro sports without fans could resume at the end of May, by the 31st. In addition, he said also that the Little League baseball can resume play with the parents watching under social distancing guidelines. So we already know that Major League Baseball is in talk with players on a plan to restart the season, and the NFL released its schedule earlier this month. So Fred, New York, California, Texas, Florida, and Arizona say, hey, pro sports, you can return, of course, with the social distancing guidelines. If the biggest ones that have been hit the hardest are saying come back, I think it's just a matter of time before we hear all the other states starting to join in.
Yeah, we're going to have an interview in a little while with Judd Silverman, the tournament director of the Marathon Classic. He's going to address that point for the state of Ohio because, as you know, the LPGA Tour and is going to start the season back up at the Marathon Classic the way it's planned right now. And they want to have fans there. And then the Memorial, they're going to have, the PGA is starting up June 11th in Texas with no fans for the first four, and the first tournament with fans would be the Memorial. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about how these tournaments are getting together and working with the state of Ohio to make sure they can have fans. We're going to talk about that a little more. But to have Arizona open up the state, other states opening up, that's all good news, Carlos. It's, you know, people are, first of all, they're sick and tired of being cooped up. It's not in our nature to do this. Second of all, they want their sports. People want to see what's going on. They want that sports competition. You know how you and I missed it, and we were so excited for the golf that was last weekend. We were excited. We were like, it was like Christmas, getting to watch golf again. And so this is all good stuff. I think people are coming to their senses. We've scared people enough that they know they've got to be careful when they're out in the public. You know, you've got to wash your hands. You got to do all this stuff. They've got safety protocols in place. We're going to talk about that some more. The PGA Tour is handling that. So this is, like you say, this is very big. It's a great announcement, but everybody's got to be smart. You know, they got to do what they got to do to keep safe and keep this thing from spreading again and becoming a problem. There's going to be hot spots, Carlos. We're going to see it probably for the next 6 months until we either have a vaccine or a vaccine or a pill that works. So we're going to continue to see problems flare up in different places. But if everybody's careful, I think we can keep it under control and go along. And Carlos, before I turn it back to you, I want to just mention real quick that all 10 courses are open at Boyne. There's still limitations on staying at the resort, and the food service is not available yet, but we're getting very close to Boyne opening back up 100%. So it's a great time to go online, reserve your next golf trip, because I would say in another month, everything's going to be full go again. And there's great deals right now. It'd be a perfect time to do it. And I also just found out earlier today that French Lick reopened the West Baden Inn. So you can go down there. Those golf courses are open, the Ross course and the Dye course and the Valley Links. You can stay in the West Baden. The casino and the French Lick Springs Hotel is still closed, but the beautiful West Baden is open, and so French Lick is back in business. So along with all this stuff, it's all positive, Carlos. It's all just the snowball is beginning to roll, and it's all positive.
It is, and the most important thing, and the question that fans are saying, okay, but what's going to happen when the PGA Tour returns? Well, the PGA Tour is set to return without fans. That's going to be, like you mentioned, the Charles Schwab Challenge at Colonial on June 11th. And ahead of that, they've issued what was a 37-page guide to the players and officials on the extra measures that will be in place. 37 pages. Now, they had a conference call with Andy Levinson. Andy Levinson is the PGA Tour Senior Vice President for Tournament Administration. And he said that plans include a strict testing regime and measures that will be in place surrounding each tournament, as well as strong recommendations for travel and accommodation between them. Now, the PGA Tour has outlined those plans to test every player and official at each event, which will be approximately 400 tests per week once that competition resumes. So individuals must fill out a questionnaire, give a thermal reading, and undertake a nasal swab or saliva test. Strict social distancing rules will also be in place, though while the tour will strongly recommend certain hotels and methods of transports, it will not insist on them. It's going to be just suggestions. Now, the officials insisted that all testing would be funded by the PGA Tour using privately sourced equipment with steps taken to ensure it did not impact local authorities and their own efforts to combat the virus. That was because of the backlash before. You might remember the NBA when they had privately test their players. Hey, but those tests should go to somebody else. They are making sure it will that inventory is not going to impact the local inventories. Now, the tour will not announce any of the positive tests that may arise due to the medical confidentiality, but the individual concerned would need to withdraw from the event and undergo a period in quarantine, which I find that ironic, right? Because I'm not going to say who it is, but somebody withdrew today. Come on, we will know who it is. But anyway, when asked if several positive tests could force an event to shut down, Levinson said that there was not a specific number that would trigger such action being taken. Fred, the tour has announced that at least the first 4 events, we have talked about this on the calendar, will take place behind closed doors, with that restriction to be extended if necessary. Like you mentioned, the Memorial will be the first one. But what is your take on these precautions that they're taking right now?
Yeah, it's a layered approach. They've obviously put some thought into this, and they want to make it safe for the players, the volunteers, everybody involved on site. There will not be any fans, which should make it a lot easier. They're even going to use chartered planes between events, so if the players don't have to go on public transportation, they can stay in their little group. It's kind of like what they're talking about doing with baseball players, is kind of keeping them separated from the general population. And so you've got the 4 tournaments. The Colonial is the first one. You've got the Heritage in South Carolina. You got the Travelers, and then you got the Detroit with the Rocket Mortgage. All not going to have fans. I was talking to someone yesterday who is on the medical staff. They're already making their plans, what they're going to be doing, what they're going to have, how they're going to handle things in Detroit. So that they're on top of this thing and they're watching it very close. And I think they're doing a pretty good job with it. If anyone has an elevated temperature, you know, they're gonna get tested right away. That's going to be the first sign. And I don't know if you've had any occasion to do anything yet, but I had to go to the dentist last week, and so it was really, so I had the appointment. So they called me the day before, and I had to answer a questionnaire, okay, like 6 or 7 questions. You know, had I been infected? Had I been close to anybody? Had I been traveling, or, you know, all this other country, all this stuff? Do I have a temperature? Do I have a cough? And so then when you get there, you have to call the number. You sit in your car in the parking lot. You have to call the number. Then they tell you when you can come in, because they don't want anybody in the waiting room. So you come into the waiting room. The nurse comes out immediately, takes your temperature, right, with the thing right away. Then she asks you 4 or 5 questions while she's doing that. Then she takes you into the little room, the little examination room. You have to wash your hands. You have to gargle. You have to do all this stuff before you even get in the chair. And you have to have a mask on when you get there. You take it off, you know, but you got to have it on when you go through all this procedure. So, I mean, the health departments and all the medical staffs, they're doing a wonderful job of making sure everyone can stay safe as possible and still go about some kind of an orderly life. So I have to tip my hat to all these people that are doing that, and all the medical staff everywhere they're just busting their butt, taking all the risk of taking care of all the sick people. So We have amazing medical industry here in the United States. I don't know how it could be any better anywhere else in the world. People like to complain about stuff, and the medical doctors and the hospitals catch a lot of hell from people. But I'll tell you what, if you don't like it here, go someplace else, and I don't think it'll be near as good as what you got right here. So, Carlos, getting back to it, it's the tour is doing everything they can, and the tournaments are doing everything they can to make it safe for everyone involved.
Yeah, I think that happened to you on the dentist might be something of a standard that they might be doing all along, because I got a call.
Until there's a vaccine or a pill, I'm pretty sure that's what you're going to see everywhere.
Yeah, and I got a call from our dentist, our family dentist, that they were opening their practice again, and they outlined those same things. I haven't gone yet, but I know what to expect, and you just validated that. So that takes you to see that everyone is taking it seriously. It's not about, okay, I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna be, of course, there's gonna be chances for you to get exposed. There's not gonna be any perfect scenario. As long as you take care of yourself, follow the guidelines, I'm sure, I mean, like you mentioned, we have to tip our hats off to all the medical professions, and they're spending every day out there on the front lines for us. But I see it everywhere that I go. There's these guidelines that you have to follow, so you can feel a little confident, hey, I can go out and do my things. But going back to the PGA Tour, those on the tour who are currently outside of the United States, a number that includes the likes of Tommy Fleetwood, Matt Fitzpatrick, and London-based Francesco Molinari, come on, they will face additional hurdles before they can get that far. Because Levinson said that a 14-day quarantine is currently in place. It's likely to continue. And so it is imperative that those constituents that they have need to come back to the States, well, at least 2 weeks prior to any return to competition. Now, Tommy Fleetwood already had suggested, I'm not returning immediately to the U.S. because that quarantine restrictions would mean he would need to stay there until the end of the season. That is September, to make it worthwhile for him. So, he's 29 years old. He's not wanting to leave his family for such a long period. Fred, we talked about this before. Those players in Europe are going to have a big challenge trying to decide what they're going to do. If they're going to come here, they're going to have to stay. They're not going to have that flexibility of traveling back and forth, because they will have to lose those 2 weeks. And we don't know yet how the European Tour is shaping up to do their stuff, but they have their own things that they have to do back home. So how about this challenge for the European players?
Yeah, we've been talking about the European Tour, and even when Kieran was on a few weeks ago, he said, he just didn't see how they were going to even get a season started again, because it's the travel from the UK to even Ireland, or UK to Spain, or UK to France. Nobody wants to go to Italy right now because it's still a mess there. So, and Spain was not good, and their medical facilities are not nearly as good as they are here in the United States. So, and if you travel across borders, you've got that 2-week quarantine period. That just kills you. To play one tournament here in the United States, you'd have to spend 3 weeks minimum. So when you come over, you might as well plan on playing 4 or 5, or maybe like 6 or 7 events in a 10-week span or something like that, and pick and choose when the majors are going to be. Since there's not going to be any Open Championship, they don't have to worry about staying, going to the UK for that. So we're just going to have the 3 majors here, and then the Ryder Cup. So they might as well come over here probably mid-July, maybe about Memorial time, and just stay and play, is what it looks like to me, because they come over maybe a week or 2 ahead of time, do their self-quarantining, and then get several tournaments in before they go back home. So it's a real problem for the European guys. I don't know how they're going to deal with it. They just have to figure out what fits their schedule the best, Carlos.
Definitely, and I read somewhere, I don't have the details, and I will bring them to you guys next week. But I heard that the European Tour is planning like a four tournament in the UK so that they can bring their players during the summer. I wish I would have remembered the dates and what they're planning, but it's something that is on the works. They're trying to get like four tournaments in one place in the UK so that they don't have to travel outside. But we'll bring that anyway. That is some of the things that they're working on. Fred, bring us the tournament updates from all major tours.
Yeah, well, one of the things that we found out last week is that the Dow Great Lakes Bay Invitational canceled. As we, they were planning on having that when we had Michael Wan on. He was planning on kicking off the season here in Midland, Michigan. Now about an hour from where I'm at right now, actually. But Dow is a very politically correct company, and they did not want to take the chance that someone would get sick and, hopefully, God forbid, die, from being at the tournament and being exposed at the tournament. They just felt it was too big of a lawsuit, too big of a liability for them. And so they just completely canceled for 2020. So now it falls back to the Marathon Classic, which will be the first tournament back to return. And they want to have fans. They don't want to play without fans. It's scheduled for July the 23rd. The Memorial is planned for the week ahead of that. We already talked about the PGA Tour coming back for the 4 weeks with no fans. The Memorial would be the first week with fans. And a couple cool things we'll hear from Judd, that they're going to have infrared what do I want to say, sensors or whatever in the parking lot, okay? And so they're going to know if somebody has a fever when they get out of their car, before they get on the shuttle bus to come over to the course. They're going to be able to see if they have a fever. They're going to be checked, and they're going to be asked to go back in their car and go home. They're not going to let them on the grounds if they have a fever, and they're going to be able to use that technology in the parking lot, which is amazing to me. On the badges, for the Memorial Tournament, they're going to have the RFID sensors, right? So if they're congregating too many people in a certain area, they're going to be able to see that on the computers, and they're going to send somebody out, a marshal or somebody, goes, hey, break those people up out there. There's too many people in too small of an area. So we're using technology on all this stuff, Carlos, and but we're trying to get this thing ramped back up. They're trying to get the Memorial started July 16th. They're trying to get the with fans. They're trying to get the marathon started July 23rd. And I'll have one caveat after that, after we hear the interview we did with Judd Silverman. So why don't you go ahead and play that now?
All right, let's, before we move to that, let me just mention quickly, I found the piece of news from Golf Monthly, and there was a Keith Paley sent an email to the tour members suggesting the tour will look radically different. And then he was mentioning about the possibility of those 4 tournaments in the UK. Now, the tour's next event right now on schedule is the British Masters at Close House. That's going to be July 30th. But actually, it may come forward and be for the first of those 4 that they would run, because the PGA Championship is starting on August 6th. So they would like to get those 4 to give their players some chance to go back to the States and play there in San Francisco. And Eddie Pepperell was one of the players that really confirmed that on Twitter, that he heard something like that. So I guess that will be something that we'll keep an eye on it and have it ready for you as soon as we hear more from the European Tour. But now let's talk about Judd Silverman. He was caddying on the PGA Tour for Craig Stadler and decided that his hometown, Toledo, where is that? Where have I heard?
The center of the golf universe.
Got it, Toledo. So how can I forget? Well, they need a professional golf tournament. And, he made some contacts, got funding, found a celebrity name to add credulity to his dream. And the first Jamie Clark Classic was held back in 1984. So since that humble beginning, the Now Marathons Classic has drawn the LPGA's biggest stars to Toledo every summer and has raised over $10 million for the area's children's charity. And Fred, you had a chance to chat
We're happy to have Judd Silverman, who is the tournament director for the Marathon Classic, here with us this evening. Judd, a lot of stuff happening. We're going to have a tournament this year?
Well, we're certainly hopeful, Fred. Right now, you know, the decision really is in the governor's hands because the 4 Ohio professional golf tournaments, we've collaborated and put together a proposal for him requesting that he lifts the current restrictions on outdoor sporting events so that we can have spectators attend all 4 tournaments.
The Memorial came out with a notice that they're going to use little RFID codes or whatever on the badges so they can kind of see where the crowds are congregating. If they get too many in one location, and go out and kind of move those around. Do you see anything like that happening in Toledo as well?
No, I think what we'll be doing is just communicating with our marshal captains who are throughout, you know, our marshals are on every hole and at the driving range and the practice facilities, and we will just be in constant communication with them. And obviously in all of our training with them, they will be looking for, you know, people congregating wherever it might be. And, you know, they'll just give them a friendly reminder that they've got to separate. And there'll be plenty of signage throughout the golf course as well, and on our electronic. We'll really respect the social distance. And I know that that's important to everybody. So hopefully it won't ever be a problem, but if it is, we've got a great volunteer marshal force, and you know, we'll work with them to remind people.
Speaking of your volunteers, you've had people that are volunteering that maybe started with you back in 1984, right? I mean, these people come back every year.
Yeah, no doubt. We do have some 35-year volunteers, and it's great. You know, none of these tournaments could happen without the work of the volunteers. So yeah, we've got a great volunteer organization, a lot of volunteer chairmen with plenty of experience, especially in the Marshall area. So we're confident that you know, we can communicate with the spectators and keep everybody separated. But there's plenty of space out there, that's for sure. And I know as we've talked, all 4 tournaments have agreed to eliminate all bleachers this year, you know, just in an effort to eliminate as much touch points as we can in an effort to keep people safe.
Well, that brings up the next question. The PGA Tour has been out with a list of protocols that they're going to follow. And I know you mentioned to me that you're going to follow along with some of those also. Could you kind of give us some of the high points of that protocol of what you're looking at to keep people safe?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we've worked closely with the LPGA Tour with what they're calling their back-to-play protocols. You know, and it really has to do with keeping the players, the caddies, the volunteers, and the spectators safe from testing the players and caddies and LPGA staff on a weekly basis. And all the way to the thermal scanning the spectators before they get on site. You know, like in our public parking lot, you know, we'll probably thermal scan them before they get on the bus, so that
really,
you know, if there is someone that is, you know, has a fever, you know, our medical team can sort of pull them aside and you know, probably send them home. And ask them, you know, to keep close tabs on. These are the types of protocols that, you know, every tournament is going to be considering and putting into operation, because it's going to be the protocol of their tour. So the LPGA and the PGA Tour have worked very closely together over the last 2 months on developing their protocols. For Ohio tournaments, we felt it was important that everyone wear a mask, because literally the way it stands right now, the Memorial Tournament and the Marathon LPGA Classic will be the first two, not only golf events, but I think sporting events to play in front of spectators if the governor will allow us since COVID-19 struck. So we just felt it was important that everyone wear a mask. If people forget to bring a mask, we will give them a mask. So, it's all the way down to that. Our food and beverage operations will be all packaged food in an effort to eliminate touch points. There won't be any buffets, that type of thing.
Yeah, you mentioned the schedule. The Dow Great Lakes Bay Invitational was scheduled to be the first event back for the LPGA, but Dow just announced this week that they're going to cancel for 2020 and resume again next year. So that puts you as the first event back. And I know Michael Wan is anxious to get the tour back going. I know that the girls are ready to get back to playing, but all that being said, everybody wants to be safe. And so there's a lot of these steps or protocols that have to be in place to make it as safe as it can be for everyone. The players, the volunteers, the staff, everybody concerned.
No doubt. It's the number one priority. And like I said, we've spent 6 weeks working on these plans. This is brand new to everybody. But, in addition to working with the LPGA and the PGA tours, we've worked with our local health departments on this to get their help and direction on all of these protocols. And, Lucas County Health Department has been terrific in working with us. We've also met with the city of Sylvania Fire and Police about these protocols. So, we've developed sort of a big task force throughout the state of Ohio, because it's not only the local health departments, like Dan is working with the health department in Franklin County, and Don's working with the health department in Summit County. We're working with Lucas County, but then you have the state health department we're also working with. So, we're trying to get, a plan that everybody is comfortable with, and in the end, that the governor is comfortable with. But, the governor's done a great job. Obviously, he does not make knee-jerk decisions, and this will be right along that same path. So that's why we've collaborated with everybody, Fred, and we feel strongly that, professional golf really does have an advantage because of the size of the golf course, and people can move around at their discretion to keep social distance and not congregate.
Yeah, one last subject I want to touch base on. The Marathon Classic does such a great job of providing, the last few years, about $500,000 to local children's charities generated from the event. Is that going to be able to happen again this year from what you're seeing?
Yes, if we're allowed to have spectators, it is our goal. Our goal this year was to raise $600,000. Last year, the tournament gave $570,000. We've got 25 Northwest Ohio children's charities that are going to benefit this year. And absolutely, if we can have our pro-ams and we can provide the advertising and the hospitality that we normally do, it may look a little different this year, but if we can provide those things and be able to generate the revenue from those different line items, sure, then our goal is definitely to give as much money as we can to charity under these circumstances. Obviously, our sales effort came to a screeching halt about 8 weeks ago. So now we're cranking it back up as the business community reopens in the state of Ohio. And, we're hopeful, Fred, that we can still meet our goals. It's not going to be easy, but, going to ask for the help of all community businesses to support us any way they can, large or small, and hopefully we'll get there.
So you really want the fans there, and I think you said to me you're really not excited about holding the tournament if you don't have fans. Is there a drop-dead date? We're here kind of in just past the middle of May. Your tournament is scheduled for about the third week of July. Are you looking maybe in the middle of June or something? You need to have a decision from the state by then?
Yeah, and I give the governor's team credit. You know, we had a conference call with the chiefs of staff, with the lieutenant governor and the governor, and they asked those questions. They realized, hey guys, I know you must have deadlines. When do you need to know from the governor if he'll allow spectators or not? And I believe Dan said he'd like to know about June 1st, and we need to know, you know, somewhere around June 15th. You know, we're hopeful that the governor can give us an answer any time between like this Friday and the following Friday. He received the proposal last Friday. So, you know, we'll see what happens. But yes, I think he and his team, you know, will give us an answer knowing that we really do need these answers by a certain date so that we can build the infrastructure that it takes to, you know, put on the tournament.
Well, Judd, thanks so much for taking a minute to come and talk with us. You guys do a great job putting on the Marathon Classic every year. You always get an exciting field in, and you've been doing it for a long time, and the charity dollars you generate from that, it's well received in the community. And so we wish you a lot of luck. Sounds like you're doing everything you can to make this thing go for 2020.
We sure are, and we're hopeful that the governor will give us that opportunity, and we're also confident that we can do it in a very safe environment for our fans and sponsors and volunteers and the players and caddies, for sure.
Thanks a lot, Judd.
Thank you, Fred.
Let me just pause this.
There you have it. That was your interview with Judd Silverman. Definitely, they have what it takes. They have everything planned. It's just up to the governor to take right now action, give them the go ahead. Like everybody else, I can just say, you see from what he was saying, they have all the precautions. I mean, even from the parking lot that you said, like, really? Their fans, I'm sure that fans are going to be taken care of anywhere that they're going to go.
Yeah, you know, they've been doing this for a long time, and so they know what it takes, and they know what they can do. If you heard him say there won't be any stands, there's not going to be any no sitting around. Everybody's going to have to walk around and stay on their own 2 feet. And there'll probably be a limited number of fans, or they're going to allow so many in probably. Everybody's going to have a mask. If you don't have one, they're going to give you one before they let you in the door. And so last Friday, we taped this yesterday. So last Friday, they submitted the plan, and that was the memorial, the senior players, the Korn Ferry Tours, Nationwide Children's Hospital, and the Marathon Classic, the 4 professional tournaments that are in Ohio this year, had been working together to put this plan together, and they gave it to the governor last Friday, and then they're hoping that he will give them an answer either by this Friday or by the following Friday, whether they will allow fans or not. And Judd said that he's not really excited. If they're not going to have fans, they're not going to have the tournament. Now, there's one caveat to this, and I didn't look exactly at the LPGA Tour schedule, but Judd was telling me that after his tournament, the next 2 or 3 weeks were going to be in Europe, which was the the Scottish Women's, and then the Women's Open Championship, and something else. And so he doesn't think Michael Wan will want to have the marathon played and then 3 off weeks if they're not going to go to Europe. So will they wait and hold it off and not play the marathon for another couple weeks yet and replace one of those weeks that we're going to be in Europe? That's the only kicker in this thing, Carlos. Right now they're planning to go, the 3rd week of July, but that could change just yet. But what I wanted Judd in was to enlighten all of our listeners of all the precautions and all the things that they're doing, all the things they're putting in place to make it safe for fans, volunteers, and the players.
Definitely, and we'll definitely see. That is a very important point about those 3 weeks that are going to be outside of the U.S. because we were just talking about the 14-day quarantine. How are they going to manage that? So that's going to be very important when they return. How is it going to be played? But anyway, let's move on to the next piece of news we have, because this year the U.S. Open will not officially be an Open because the USGA announced that there would be no qualifying for the event due to the coronavirus pandemic.
Are you expecting an exemption, Carlos?
Yeah, I mean, this really affected me. I was trying to qualify. I was going to qualify, but now my whole plans just went down the drain. I mean,
coronavirus. Blame it on the coronavirus.
I hate it. But anyway, the tournament is still set to get underway at Winged Foot. It's a really good thing. They're in New York on their postponed date that is going to be the 17th of September. But the USGA has now canceled most of its tournament this year, bearing the U.S. Open, the U.S. Women's Open, the U.S. Amateur, and the U.S. Women's Amateur. All 4 events will not feature any qualifying because, as the USGA says, conducting hundreds of qualifiers across the country was not seen as a viable option. We have to agree. I mean, it would be a logistics nightmare to try to keep up with all that. That means the fields will be assembled by exemptions only, essentially turning the events into invitationals as opposed to opens. So the U.S. Open usually has local qualifying events before final sectional qualifying, which is hosted at 15 sites, including Walton Heath in Surrey, as well as Japan, Canada, and all across the U.S. You might remember in 2005, Michael Campbell, he qualified at Walton Heath and then went on to win the U.S. Open at Pinehurst. So that was what I was hoping to qualify and win the U.S. Open.
Can I caddy for you?
Yeah, I mean, you're going with me. So the USGA, they has not yet decided whether to allow fans to attend the U.S. Open in September, so we don't know that yet. First, the U.S. Open is set to take place a week prior to the Ryder Cup at Whistling Straits. It's still unknown whether fans will be allowed to attend or not. I guess that by then they should be, but this is what we get for now. We know that there's not going to be any qualifying zone.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. I guess they're going to have to change the name to the U.S. Closed instead of the U.S. Open. Yeah, but that was always a big part of it, and they hated to do that. They absolutely hated to do that. That would be the last option, that they would not hold those qualifiers. But it just probably didn't make sense. And it was no problem to hold the tournaments in the places, but the travel that would be involved for the people moving around, that's the problem. Because you've got guys that might be playing, they were usually, the one in Columbus, it was usually the Monday after the Memorial Tournament, right? And so now the Memorial's been moved up a couple weeks, so now you're even later. And you have these things scheduled all over the country. You got guys that might be playing in the Memorial on Sunday, jump on a plane that night and fly someplace to play the next day. So there was a lot of that happened, and it just didn't make sense to do it. I applaud them for biting the bullet, because I know they did not want to do that. They pride themselves in having those qualifiers and making it so it truly is open and anybody can get in. But that's just the way it is this year, Carlos. That's just what I have to deal with.
Definitely, and I agree with you. It was a hard decision for them not to have the qualifying. This is just like a big thing. That's what a lot of people wait for, a lot of players, to try to get the option to get into the U.S. Open. So definitely, like you mentioned, the problem is not holding the tournaments. It's just the logistics, the back end for those tournaments to be held. So unfortunate, but at least the tournament, we get it that it's going to go. Now, Fred, another piece of news that we have been talking about for ever since we knew that there was going to be a reopening to the, not a reopening, basically an opening from the colleges to some pro remuneration. But we've seen also now that there's a lot of ADs that are being forced to drop athletic programs, and we have been reporting for the past few weeks there have been colleges dropping athletic programs. What's the latest right now that we've heard on it?
Well, a couple hit pretty close to home for me. You know, I sit right in between University of Toledo and the University of Bowling Green. And Akron is only about an hour and a half away from me as well when I'm in Toledo. The athletic director at Akron announced that they had to drop three sports, and men's golf was one of those. So that's unfortunate, but athletic directors they're being forced to cut at least like 20-25% from their budgets. You're not going to cut football, you're not going to cut basketball, so it falls down to these other sports. They have to maintain 17 sports. The NCAA dictates that they maintain 17 sports to stay eligible for championship competition. And if they're running 21, 22 sports, then those ones over 17 are probably going to have to go. Men's golf doesn't make a lot of money. It makes sense. It's going to be one of the first ones on the chopping block. Bowling Green, believe it or not, they dropped their baseball team, which baseball was the very first sport that Bowling Green had back in 1905 as a collegiate sport. So it really hurt to drop that for them. And so now you're putting all these kids with scholarships to play a sport. And now they can keep their scholarship. The school will let them keep their scholarship, but they've got no sport to play. So now they got to go find someplace else to play. So it's a really tough deal. But as we said, the colleges are really under the gun. If they don't hold fall football this year, I'm really afraid of what we're going to see across the board next year. I think colleges are going to tell the NCAA, hey, go fish. We got to come up with a different plan. We can't maintain 17 sports, especially with Title IX, when if you have a men's sports, you have to offer the women equal opportunity. So it's really a tough. The athletic director job is usually kind of a figurehead kind of thing at a big college. It's kind of a funsy job most of the time. But right now they're under a lot of pressure to cut their budget, cut sports, and make their coaching staffs and make each sport toe the line and not spend any money over the dollar that they're given.
Yeah, at least we see that apparently there's this initiative. I truly think we're going to see college sports, especially football, this next season, this fall. But definitely a tough situation when you have to cut down, and maybe that opens up opportunities somewhere else. I know that some of this reopening of the big states like California and New York is coming also after some talks that I've seen in the news, in the media, about other places that say, hey, you know, if you can't play there, we're open here, so come transfer. So there was a talk this past week about college transfer. The page for transfer was filled up. I mean, there is at least students exploring that opportunity, and this is what we're going to see from now on, because as this get dropped from one place, there's going to be opportunities somewhere else where they're going to be getting those opportunities to play. But anyway, in another piece of news, Brooks Koepka, that player that at some point we wonder if he would talk. Now he's taking shots.
Now you can't shut him up.
Yeah, I mean, Brooks, come on, man. I know Brandel Chambly challenged him when he said that, you know, he wouldn't be one of those top players to win on the majors, and now he, you know, we've known what he has done, but he's taking shots literally at Brandel Chambly. Fred, what is going on there between Brooks and Brandel.
Well, yeah, Chambly, he didn't really appreciate Brooks saying he doesn't get excited about regular tournaments. He only worries about playing in the majors. And Brandel took that as a real shot as not being a professional, not being a true professional, just kind of mailing it in on the regular tournaments and only getting up for the big ones. But, and Brandel's, that's his job, is to keep things stirred up anyhow. So he's just doing his job. And so Koepka went to, he was throwing some darts at his house. So just like we do, you gotta go on social media, you gotta go on Instagram and post it, or Twitter. He took a picture of Brandel Chambly, put it on his dartboard, and was throwing the darts at Brandel's face. So just a little shot across the bow there for Brandel. It's all good. It's all good fun. And Koepka got a pretty good kick out of it. And I know Brandel did too. So good stuff there. A lot of fun.
Yeah, I know. They're just playing it up. At the end of the day, that's just what it is. They're both professionals in this. And like you mentioned, Brandel knows. That's why he's gotten to where he is, by steering out the pod and making things work. And I know the players know it. So, it's just part of the show. And Brooks just took it one step further, up a notch by doing this, but it was all in fun. So it's just nice piece of news to watch and get entertained by it.
While we're here, Carlos, I should mention too, it's kind of been going around a little bit that Golf Channel was going to move up to NBC Studios up in Connecticut.
Yeah.
And they had a plan for that, but they've actually moved that up. And they're moving everything up to Connecticut about 3 or 4 weeks sooner than what they were planning on doing. Evidently, I don't know if you can blame it on the COVID thing or the fact that maybe Golf Channel is even in worse trouble than what we thought it was. They took on a lot of stuff in a hurry there, and I think they just overextended themselves at a time when it was probably not very good to do so. So hopefully they can get things sorted out, because Golf Channel is a big part of every golfer's viewing every week, and so good luck to Golf Channel getting things sorted out there.
Second that. Hey, Justin Thomas, JT, he's going to be joining Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy as cover athletes on a PGA Tour video game. Now, JT on Thursday was revealed as the face of the upcoming PGA Tour 2K21 game, which is set for a multi-platform release on August 21st. JT is going to be one of 12, which is otherwise unannounced PGA Tour pros who will appear in the game, which also features 15 PGA Tour courses and real-world brands such as Callaway, TaylorMade, Bridgestone, Adidas, and Thomas' own sponsor, Polo Ralph Lauren. Now, there's going to be PGA Tour events and courses spotted in the trailer if you see it. Among them, you can watch the Players' Championship at TPC Sawgrass, Genesis Invitational at Riviera, Zurich Classic at TPC Louisiana. The Waste Management Phoenix Open cannot be missing. That's going to be at TPC Scottsdale. The John Deere Classic at TPC Deere Run. The 3M Open at TPC Twin Cities. The Valspar Championship at the Copperhead Course at Innisbrook. The Valero Texas Open at TPC San Antonio. And the season-ending Tour Championship at Eastlake. Fred, the PGA Tour 2K21 is 2K and HB Studios' follow-up to the Golf Club 2019, which was the first video game released to sport official PGA Tour licensing since EA Sports' long-running Tiger Woods and one-time Rory McIlroy series came to an end back in 2015. So that PGA Tour 2K21 will be launching in PlayStation 4, Xbox One and Xbox One X, Windows PC via Steam, and Nintendo Switch and Stadia. So this is for all the gamers' knowledge, okay? I know about all that, Fred. I know.
I'm glad you're talking about that, because I know you know a lot more about it than I ever will. I don't think I've ever played a video game in my life. I don't think. I got way too much AD&D to do that. I can't sit still long enough to do that. No, this is all good stuff. PGA Tour, they keep looking for ways to make more money. They make goo gobs of money every year. And, if this gets it out there and brings more people to the game, bring some of the kids that are really into technology. If they could do it there and they, oh, maybe I ought to go outside and play golf myself a little bit sometime. Maybe it'll develop a golfer or two from this thing, who knows. But yeah, good for them. Should be good stuff. And JT gets the honor of being on the box.
Yeah, that's really the interesting thing for us is JT was the one selected for it. So what would be, and this is a quick question to you, what would be the meaning of JT? Of course, he's maybe the face of this young, up-and-coming young generation, right? We have Rory McIlroy is maybe the top player right now. He's 31. So JT is on the 26 years old, 25, 26 under. And he's the one selected. It wasn't Jordan Spieth. It wasn't anybody else. So do you think Justin Thomas is a good choice to use as this anchor for this marketing to try to attract golfers or non-golfers to this game?
Yeah, you definitely got to go for a younger crowd. I mean, that's who's gonna buy this thing, right? And it's not even like the 20-year-old. I mean, it's probably what young men, probably young boys from what, about 10 or 11, 12 up to about maybe 19, something like that is probably the target market for this thing. Now, whether it's Justin Thomas, I don't know. You've got some other good young guys that would have been kind of maybe a better choice for that. But Justin Thomas has been around. He's won a major. He's won a bunch of tournaments, so he's a recognizable name. And I think you said he had a tie in there with the sponsors too. So maybe that, was part of the deal. I don't know. So Justin's a likable guy, and he's a young guy, and it should work. I don't know why. Of course, the number one would be Tiger or Phil, but they're too old now. They're past it, and I don't think they would really want to do it. I don't know. Maybe Tiger would if you threw enough money at him. But it's time to turn it over to the younger guys, and I would thought probably Jordan Spieth would have been the number one guy, but JT, Jordan Spieth, 6 of one, half dozen of the other, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I think it should have been between those, but at this time, we see JT's the one that has been really capturing all the attention in the Ryder Cup and the tournaments, winning. So I think Jordan has gone down, at least on the likability or at least the marketability of it. And but I don't know. It's just an interesting dynamic to see how JT can maximize that. But anyway, Fred, for closing the show, close us with the announcement of the sites for the 2025 and 2030 PGA Championships, and also talk to us about this 60-year-old who shot 84 and won an event with one club. How is that?
One club. Yeah, first of all, the PGA announced sites for the PGA Championship clear out 2025 and 2030. 2025, they're going to be at Quail Hollow back in North Carolina. And in 2030, they're going to be at Southern Hills. So they are booked up now. This year, of course, Harding Park, then Kiowa, Trump National, Bedminster, Oak Hill, Valhalla, Quail Hollow, Aronimink, down in Frisco, down your backyard in 2027, in 28 back at Olympic Club in San Francisco, 29 Baltusrol, 30 Southern Hills, 31 Congressional, 33 and 32 and 33 are to be announced, and 34 back in Frisco. So they're going to get those courses ready there, and so they can be holding that there. And yeah, so we got a 60-year-old man who was kind of bored with playing golf. He's a pretty good player. He's won a bunch of stuff. He's even played in some pro events. He's pretty good. And he's kind of getting bored with playing. And, he played in these little 3-club things. And one of his buddies said, well, if you're so bored, just play with one club. So he goes to the Goodwill, and he pays $2.99 for a Wilson staff putter, an old Wilson staff putter, right? And he plays the whole round in this tournament with the one club. That's it, okay? And he shoots an 84, and the flight he's in, he wins by 6 shots with a $2.99 putter. That's the only club in his bag, Carlos.
I think if he goes now and puts it on eBay, I bet he's going to get a lot more for that. I want to know which putter. I want to buy one.
Yeah.
But anyway, wrapping up this weekend, we have the match too. So make sure to watch it. It's going to be on TNT. It's going to be very interesting. Tiger Woods and Peyton Manning versus Phil Mickelson and Tom Brady. So that's going to be the second week in a row that we have live pro golf being played. So, Fred, any other final words before we close up the show?
Just the fact that it's nice to see things starting to ramp up again, Carlos. We're going to kind of at it slowly. Last weekend, this weekend, I'll give the PGA Tour an idea, kind of showcase a little bit about what they can do, how they can put on a tournament. We heard Judd saying the tournaments are working with the governor of Ohio to try and get ramped up so they can have fans. Everybody's trying to do this thing the right way, Carlos. The only other thing I want to mention is Ohio Golf Journal came out last Wednesday, the May issue. It's out there, a lot of good stuff in there. We have Michael Wan on the cover, the best sports commissioner of any league, of any sport in the country. We're featuring him this month. The Michigan Golf Journal is out there for May. Visit Back Nine Report TV on YouTube for travel, news, information, interviews. You can catch these podcasts there. We're also on Roku with Back Nine Report TV. We're everywhere, Carlos. We're putting it out there everywhere.
Wherever there's media, that's where you're going to find us. So Back Niners, that will wrap up another week of the Back Nine Report. Thank you for joining us. It's always our pleasure to bring you the latest on the world of golf. Special thanks to our VIG, Judd Silverman, the tournament director for the Memorial Tournament. So now, remember, if you haven't followed our show, follow it on Twitter. It's at Back Nine Report with the number 9 in the middle. And don't forget to join us again next week on YouTube. Or if you miss it, you can also check the audio version out on iTunes or TuneIn. So, until next week, my name is Carlos Torres. I'm alongside Fred Altvater. We wish you to be happy, be blessed, and enjoy the great game of golf. Happy golfing, everybody.
I hope we see you on the Back Nine.
That's where we will be.